Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us amidst these tough times. Thorny, how are you?
Oh man, it is a special thing over here. Working from home. My wife is working from home. We've turned the table into like an office space. It's a trying time. I'll tell you that. A little quarantine we got going over here. How's your quarantine going?
Mine's going pretty good. I have to say my wife has been working home as well. I'm the main teacher in the house, so I got my son Miles all set up with his kindergarten duties. And then Macklin is just kind of bouncing around the house and, doing puzzles and playing with Legos. And so it's been pretty good. Not too challenging in the Foley household.
Who's playing with more Legos, Mac or you?
Me. Well, Miles and I have we have a daily Lego challenge. And I tell you what, the Lego game in the Foley household is strong right now. It's probably my favorite part of this whole quarantine. Holy cow.
Yeah, sounds like you got it pretty rough over there. I'm putting in like 9-hour days trying to keep our business afloat over here. And my wife's doing the same thing. And our house is just being torn apart by the kids all at the same time. And you're over there playing Legos.
Well, I can't complain. It's been fun, but we squeeze some math and we squeeze some language arts in there as well. So it's not all Legos, but there's a lot of Legos for sure.
At this point, our educational is like, all right, I'm going to not play the TV full of complete crap. I'm going to put on like Daniel Tiger or something semi-decent. That's all we can do. That's
Nice,
all we
man.
can do.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us during this time. Thorny and I thought we'd put out an episode to just kind of give some relief during this time and just some Bobcat sports talk. And so for tonight, we'll run a little bit different episode than what we normally do, but we're going to lead off again with what we're drinking tonight. We're going to go over a little bit of news. We're going to cover the men's and women's basketball season. And then the meat of the program will be your fan submitted questions that we'll end with.
Sounds good. Yeah, a little bit different format. I'm excited to do it. There's not a whole lot to talk about right now. So like you said, something to kind of just break up the monotony from going cabin crazy. Let's do it.
All right, Thorny, what's on tap tonight?
Maybe for the first time, I can't remember. I know I have had episodes where I haven't drank beer, but that's because I drank like a smoothie one time. But I'm actually drinking a cocktail. I don't know if I've done that. Have I done that? Can you recall if I've drank a cocktail on this show?
You have. It was our tester episode. I don't think
Test episode. That's right. Where I was like clanking around. I had like ice in it. And I was like, yes. Do not go listen to that episode. I left it up there. Funny side story. I left that episode in our feed just because it's a good reminder how far we've come, but it's not good. Don't go listen to it. But anyway, I am drinking an old-fashioned. I have rye whiskey. I used bitters, sugar cube, and all I did was put a little bit of an orange zest in there and a big fat ice cube, like one of those big, huge square ones. Pretty simple. I'm not a fan of the modern old fashions. This is as old fashioned as an old fashioned gets, and it is delicious.
Well, you're not clanking around. That's an improvement from last time.
That's one of the reasons I chose the big, huge ice cube, because it doesn't clank as much.
Nice, man. Well, my beer is... Well, I got a little backstory for my beer. So, like day 3 into the quarantine, I realized I needed a haircut pretty badly. And then, of course, Inslee shuts down all the barbers in Washington. And so I call up my buddy Mike Anderson, and I say, "Hey, Mike, you got some clippers?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got clippers." And I was like, "Okay, can I borrow them?" He says, "Sure, So I go meet him. He was getting his tires changed at a Tire-Rama, and so he brings me his clippers, and Mike's a home brewer, and he had brought me a 6-pack of some of the beer he brewed over the winter. So I'm drinking one of his beers tonight. It has no name. It's just a dark imperial IPA. I know nothing about it besides that it tastes kind of chocolatey. It's pretty delicious.
You're drinking a home brew. I'm drinking an old fashioned. What is going on here? Quarantine fever.
Thorny, I actually have 3 drinks in front of me. I'm not gonna lie. So I got Mike's Imperial IPA sitting to my left. To my right, I got some cold gypsy tea that I steeped just 5 minutes ago because my throat's hurting. And then in a golden koozie, I got a Miller Lite waiting for the back half of the show.
Got to finish it off strong with Miller Lite. Tell you what.
Got all bases covered.
I'm really hoping that my old fashioned lasts me the whole show. I've already had a beer before this. It is a decent sized old fashioned. I'll tell you, I'll probably put a little bit more whiskey in it than I would normally, but I knew I had to last my whole episode. So here we are.
There you go, man. Hey, Thorny, just before we get into any kind of news, have you been taking advantage of any of this time to like go back and watch some of the football games that we that are posted right now, like the Cat Grizz game or maybe the Austin P game that is posted on the Bobcat Nation?
So I feel like we're definitely living 2 very separate quarantine lives here. I'm working like more than I normally am because I'm much less efficient at home than I am in the office. So I have less free time than I would normally during the day. So absolutely no, I have not done any of that. I know you have.
I have. I feel like I'm caught up on Montana State athletics. It's been fun. It's been fun going back and watching those football games again. If you have the opportunity and you need just a little levity in your day, I would encourage you guys to go on to the Bobcat Nation. In there's a link to watch the Cat Grizz over again and the Austin P game. So check those out.
I did put out kind of a boring day Bobcat fan to-do list on Twitter. I put our Cat Grizz preview episode, linked to that, told you where we started talking the game. Then I linked to that exact thing you're talking about, the YouTube full game. And then I linked to our post-game Cat Grizz recap. So if you're real bored, there you go. See how wrong we were before the game, watch the game, and see how right we thought we were after the game.
Nice, man. All right, well, let's get into this. We have a couple bits of news. One, passing of DeAndre Green. I'll let you talk about that, Ryan.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention it. It happened. The news article I'm looking at here was from March 8th. But DeAndre Green, former wide receiver for the Bobcats from 2007 to 2008, appears to have been shot. Well, he was shot and killed. I'm not sure exactly the nature of the shooting or anything like that. I know he was like a high school or a Contra Costa College assistant football coach down in Oakland. Not much about the details. I just wanted to just say, condolences to his family and his friends. Like that's just, he's a Bobcat. Like we say, once a Bobcat, always a Bobcat. And I certainly remember him from his playing days. And I just wanted to mention that just to kind of give a little tribute here to DeAndre Green for his playing days and the unfortunate tragedy that befell him a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's horrible news.
Yeah, not a fun way to start the podcast, but certainly worth talking about, I felt.
Okay, well, thanks for getting us caught up on that, and thoughts and prayers for his family right there and those associated with DeAndre Green. On to the next piece of news. Not surprising, with COVID-19, all spring sports are canceled. Most notably for us Bobcat fans, spring football. And I don't know, Thorny, if you, what's your quick take on spring football real quick?
My very first take is Jeff Choate's probably a pretty happy man right now. I'm sure he's not in like the terms of why, but that guy does not like spring football. I don't think his heart's broken that he's not out there doing spring football right now.
No. Yeah.
My first thought, that was my first thought.
I can't complain too much. I mean, I don't follow track and field all that much, and I do follow spring football. I was looking forward to seeing, Justin Udy and his offense and maybe a little bit of the passing attack that we will see in the fall. Although I don't think we're going to see much, but we would have kind of a battle there at QB as well with Rovig and McKay and Bauman, and so those are the only things I'm really going to miss. But am I going to really miss it that much? No, not really.
No, I mean, I certainly feel bad for all the athletes involved, especially those who that was their actual season, spring season. But from a fan standpoint, like it's spring ball is fun, football is fun to like keep track of, but it's not any make or break type thing. Like you said, there's some interesting battles, but we'll get to those in the fall if there is a fall. Unfortunately, I'm reading more and more about potential of the whole college season being canceled. Football, but we're not going to go into that because that's way too depressing to think about.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, Craig Haley tweeted out an article talk from various I don't know if it was like a CBS article, but it's a potential. It's a potential that the entire football season be canceled, even if it's being so far away.
Yeah, I could see that.
I could too, and that's why we're not talking about it. Next topic.
This has been just a Debbie Downer of a podcast so far.
Yep, coming right out of the gate, just on fire here. Jeez.
Okay, well,
take a sip of tea.
Yeah, I just did. Thanks a lot. Let's just move right into. Let's just talk about the men's basketball season and the women's basketball season. Let's recap. We just recap those just in our best way. You and I are not basketball savants. Definitely not even. I mean, basketball is probably my maybe third favorite sport, but we do have a little bit of news on the men's and women's seasons.
First of all, is your second favorite sport cycling?
No, my very first favorite sport is baseball, and then it would be football.
Oh, that's right. Oh, we're alike in so many ways, but that's where we are opposite ends, my friend. Anyway, where do you want to start here? Do you want to talk? Let's talk some men's basketball. I'll just kind of give a recap of the season real quick. The Bobcats, I want to say, finished with the winning record for the first time in quite a while. You could say because we didn't have a chance to lose a conference game. I'm not going to get into that, but we finished 16-15, 10-10 in conference. Good enough for a bye in the Big Sky tournament that did not get to finish. I don't know what else to say really about it. I want to give a shout out to Harold Frey for the amazing career that he had. Let's see, I got it right here. He finished third among all-time in points scored with 1,890, second in assists with 514, second in free throws made with 456, and three-pointers made 270, which was good for 12th on the all-time Big Sky Conference list in scoring, and also 7th in assists. I want to give a huge shout out to Harold Frey. He's been one of my favorite players to watch, probably of all time, on the men's program. He reminds me so much of kind of like Steve Nash, and I'm a big Phoenix Suns fan when it comes to the NBA. Nothing to cheer about for a long time, but I'm not going to get into that. Steve Nash, he just reminds me of the kind of the game he had where they're creative. They had to rely more on their craftiness and their intelligence more than their physical attributes because Steve Nash, much like Harold Frey, kind of needed a pick to kind of get free sometimes because he didn't have really the speed to do it necessarily, but both could light up the scoreboard when they had to. Three-pointers. I just want to give a shout out to Harold Frey, one of my all-time favorite Bobcats in any sport.
Yeah, thinking about Bobcat basketball without Harold Frey is kind of scary.
It is, yeah. I don't know if we really want to talk too much about previewing next year or anything, but it's going to be definitely a big hole to fill without Harold Frey running the show.
He was, he finally got elected into the first team All Big Sky Conference. Another Bobcat, Jubril Balo, was the newcomer of the year. And I think like a third team honorable mention. The Bobcats had one of 3 winning seasons since 2003. So, Woo. I mean, we got the first bye in our since 2005 in the tournament. Danny Sprinkle, had a pretty good first year. I mean, I was reading an article. I think he was as for a first year head coach, had a winning team. Like I said, we weren't able to play any tourney games, so that might have been skewed since like 1979. Another gentleman in there that won 17 games. But anyways,
Yeah, I believe that was Stu Starner.
I have it written down somewhere. I don't think I see it though. Anyways, the average attendance was up 3,463 average games or average fans per game. That's pretty much the highest in over a decade from what I'm seeing. So there's some positive momentum behind the men's basketball team right now. But then again, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Again, we're basically right at 500. But if you look at what Danny Sprinkle did with kind of a limited amount of talent on the team, I think we probably exceeded expectations.
I want to kind of play devil's advocate here. I've heard a lot of people say Sprinkle did great with the talent on the team and all that, but doesn't it fall on the head coach to get talent on the team? What are your thoughts on that? I know, kind of a heavy question. I was surprised you didn't tell you about that one, but I'm just curious because everyone's like, "Oh, he does a good coaching job with limited talent," but is that not his job to get a talented roster?
Well, I think it is, but there's also a lot to be said about players wanting to come to play at Montana State. When you look at the basketball program, there's a lot left to be desired, and so I think that has a lot to do in the players we are able to get right now. Now Sprinkle's going to have a reputation now as a head coach, and word of mouth from the players will be pretty powerful, given that they like playing for him. Will he be able to attract a different talent? That's to be seen.
No, that's just kind of a devil's advocate. Like I said, I think he did great. And I think he's done a pretty good job of bringing talent in. He was a finalist for the Joe B. Hall Award, which is the award given to like the best first year head coach in the country. I did some research, and it's been a while since I did it. I don't have it in front of me, but like I said, he's like has the best, probably arguably the best first season any coach has had since like Stu Starner in the, I forget, it was the 60s or 70s, but a lot better than Brad Hughes, a lot better than Mick Durham, a lot better than Brian Fish. Like he had a pretty good season. I like the way the team came together at the end through some adversity at a hard half of the last week, or not last week, like last 5 or 6 games of the schedule. We won some games that were a little bit surprising. So I'm excited for the future Bobcat basketball. And I think it was a really fun year to watch us just kind of have those ups and downs of a team with the first year head coach. But when we were up, we were really up. It was fun to watch.
What would you grade Danny Sprinkle this year?
It's so hard. Like, it is so hard to gauge because you grade it on kind of a curve of your expectations of the program. And it's just been stuck in like finishing 500 for 20 years. And he did exactly what everyone else did. So in that regard, I mean, I honestly give him like probably a B plus. Like it was a good year. It's, I don't know what we could have done better necessarily, but maybe some roster management, some game management of players, but some player development. But in reality, it was a good year for a first-time head coach of ever. I thought he did a really good job, and I'm really excited to see what he can do next year. But yeah, I'll probably give him a B plus for his first year.
That's exactly what I wrote down on my show notes.
B plus?
Yeah. You and I hit the same mark on that. Right on, man. We don't agree often.
Sometimes we make for very boring content when we just like, I agree. What else do I need to say?
All right, man. Well, let's move on to the women's program real quick, and then we'll get into our viewer and fan submitted questions.
Well, hold on here. We have a sidebar here. I think we do have a question on Twitter pertaining to Danny Sprinkle. Do we not?
Well, I did kind of throw that one in there. Our buddy Brian Marceau from Clubs in the Tub, the Idaho podcast.
Tubs at the Club.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris.
I think
Sorry,
you went
Brian.
dyslexic on that one.
He did ask us, his question was, grade year one of Danny Sprinkle with the loss of Harold Frey, what would success be next year? So I guess we haven't talked about that second part of the question. What does it look like to be successful next year? For me, we got to get past this 500, this line of 500. I want to see us about, three, 4 games above that 500 mark. And another thing I think we need to be in order to be successful next year, we need to beat the Grizzlies at least one of the time that we play them. That in Eastern Washington. If you look at Danny Sprinkle's time this year, he beat the teams we were better at, or excuse me, I'm going to rephrase that. Montana State was better. What did we finish, like 5th in the polling or something like that?
I think it was like 6 possibly.
Yeah. Anyways,
it was 6. It was 6.
Teams below us, we beat them, and then teams above us, we lost to them. It was kind of like the Rob Ash formula of football right there. Anyways, we need to have some of those wins against the top teams in the conference in order for me to feel that our basketball team is being successful. Most notably, the Grizzlies and Eastern Washington.
Eastern, not so concerned about that. Northern Colorado is always up at the top too, but it's like we just have to end this ridiculous streak against the Grizz. Like, I don't know if that doesn't necessarily pertain to success, but it has to be part of the equation for what you want to see next year. But for success, I just think we need to finish, top 5, and feel good about where we are and win a tournament game. Those are kind of low expectations. I understand that, but for the way Bobcat basketball has been, like, Sprinkle already kind of established himself, like, first year with the relatively limited roster. That's where he was already. Like, it's a good start, and it has to be better next year. It has to improve for sure. And so he has to be at least top 5. And I think he has to win a conference game, a tournament game. That's where I'm kind of seeing a successful season. Ending the streak against the Grizz hopefully is included in there. But if we accomplish that without beating the Grizz, it's still successful in my book.
Yep. I was excited for the tournament. With Harold Frey's last go around, I was thinking we were going to have some kind of sparks in the tournament. Unfortunately, we'll never know.
No, and real quick, we're talking a lot more about this than I thought we would, but you had mentioned newcomer of the year, Jabril Bello. He was coming on very strong at this end of the season. He was almost like a double-double for the last few games. So I'm really excited to see what he can do next year too. So we have some pieces, even with the loss of Harold Frey, but I think the Bobcats will be pretty good next year.
Nice.
We'll definitely be good next year, no matter how many people we lose from graduation. The women's program. Tell me your thoughts about the women's program. First, I guess let's recap their season. Do you have those that information in front of you?
I do. We went 25-6, 19-1 in conference, 12-2 at home, 11-2 away. We had a winning streak of 17. Patricia Binford was coach of the year, player of the year. The women's program, Thorny, I'll be straight up honest with you. I don't know much about the women's program. I know you paid more attention to it than I did, but I should be ashamed of myself in that. It's just, they were just so dominant, and they were going to the championship game in the tournament, and that's when it got called off. So I know a couple years back we played Washington in the NCAA tournament. I felt like this team just had the feel that they could make some noise in the tournament.
Well, there was talk about if the Bobcats were able to beat Idaho, which obviously we'd think they would have. They would have possibly got as high as like a 12 or 13 seed, which is a winnable game. I'm not as familiar with the women's NCAA tournament as I am with the men's. I know the disparity is much greater in the women's side of things. They're always like the number 1 seeds always beat people like 100-40. It's like, it's ridiculous, but it certainly would have been a chance to have a winnable game. But you're talking about like not knowing as much about the women's team. It was one of the most exciting teams I've watched, one of the best teams I've watched of any Bobcat sport in the last 20 years. They were a very fun group to watch. They were a complete team. They played for each other. They played hard. They were exciting to watch, and they were dominant. They were absolutely dominant. And I would have loved to see them continue that run, potentially beating Idaho and getting that NCAA tournament bid. But it was kind of a bummer to see that all end like it did. But I just think it was an extremely fun season to watch, and I just want to just say that. Like, I want to say how amazing that season was for the Bobcat women.
We do have some individual accolades. We had Fallon, help me with her last name, Thorny.
Freegee.
Big Sky
Fallon
Player of the
Freegee.
Yeah, Big Sky Player of the Year, averaging 13.7 points. She led the Bobcats there. And then Miss White, our Freshman of the Year. I know you texted me a couple times about her. Just what are your thoughts on her?
You need to watch some women's basketball just to watch Darian White. She is amazing. She is so athletic. She has such good vision of the court. She's strong. She can throw the full court pass on a dime. It's really entertaining to watch. As a true freshman, her leadership, her stepping up in big moments is unrivaled. It's really fun to watch, and she's going to be amazing for 3 more years. It's awesome.
Nice. I will do better next year. I promise on that.
You should. It'll be a different year for the Bobcats. We got a lot of seniors, including Fallon Freegee. But I think we have a great freshman class coming in, and I think Benford just has this thing rolling. Like, we're the program in the Big Sky, and I don't see that really changing anytime soon. I know we had a special group of seniors, but hey, I think it's going to be just as bright next year, even if with a little bit of learning curve with some new players being broken in, possibly some freshmen getting some minutes. But I think the Bobcat women are going to be at the top of the league again next year.
Nice. All right, Thorny, anything else on Bobcat basketball you want to talk about?
No, that pretty much covers it. Bummer to see it all end the way it did. Yeah. I think, but time to move on.
All right. Well, I'm excited about this. This is the back half of our show. This is something we wanted to put together. We asked our fans and listeners, you guys, to submit some questions for us. And so we're going to go through those questions now. We're going to start with probably the Bobcat Nation questions, and then move into our Twitter questions, and then any email questions. And then we'll just give you our thoughts.
I think it's only fitting we start with the Bobcat Nation questions, because basically this is where we started, right? Like, you and I spawned out of Bobcat Nation. We are kind of Bobcat Nation in a podcast form in some ways. Maybe that's taking too much credit, but I think that's kind of where we stand.
Okay. So in our show notes, Thorny, the very first thing you said, and I didn't see it in Bobcat Nation all that much, is but you said, should number 15 be retired for Troy Anderson?
Okay, so to be clear here, there was a couple of topics I saw in Bobcat Nation that we should answer. These aren't exactly questions necessarily. I've just seen a lot of debate on them. So we have 2 here, and this is the first one. Should Troy Anderson's number 15 be retired? Do you want to take that first, or do you want me to take that first?
I'll take it first. We should not put the cart before the horse right there. And let's let Troy be Troy for a while before we even start talking about that. Now, I'm not going to say if I haven't heard anything about this, but I was raking the yard just the other day listening to Coulter Nuon is on his show, and he had a sentence there that came out of his mouth that said Troy Anderson might redshirt this coming year. What do you think about that? I mean, I'm getting a little sidetracked right now, but that'd be some news right there.
It would, and I thought that too. Like, I've heard he's kind of had some surgery. He may not play this year or not well into the year, so there's the potential for a red shirt there. I don't know what to think about that, because I would love it if he redshirted and came back to the program. I'm just worried that he'll redshirt, get healthy, and just pretty much declare for the NFL draft afterwards instead of playing for his senior year. But that would be huge news and would definitely not warrant retiring his number if that's the case. What are your thoughts about Troy Anderson redshirting?
Well, I want to talk about his number being retired too, but I would be in favor of Troy Anderson redshirting. I mean, whatever is best for him. I mean, he's such a workhorse. I don't have a problem with him redshirting.
No.
We played the back half of the season without him seemingly. So we had some good synergy without him. That doesn't really, like, it's not like, it doesn't frighten me if I think about Troy Anderson redshirting. I don't think he would declare for the draft. I just don't think that's him. I think he would want to play out his career at Montana State. But going back to the genesis of the question, should we retire number 15? I think we should. At the end of his career, I think Troy Anderson his number should be retired, regardless of what he does from here on out. It'd be nice to see him, like, if he continues to play linebacker, if he was, Buck Buchanan winner, or I guess he's been first team All Big Sky for a while now, but whatever he does going on from here on out, he's been such a notable Bobcat that I don't see why we wouldn't. I think he's in that same echelon as guys that I think of, like Travis Lulay and Denarius McGee, and then now there's the Troy Anderson. So those are people that I revere. I think you would agree with that.
My question is, Denarius McGee, I believe, the winningest quarterback in Bobcat history. I don't remember that exactly, but if he can't get his number retired, should Troy Anderson's number be retired? It's a hard question to wrestle. It's a hard thing to compare two players. For me, Troy Anderson needs one more big accolade, one more big season, one more prove it kind of thing for that to be in the discussion. But as of right now, if his career ended today, I don't think it should be retired. I think it's such a hard thing. It's such a special thing to have a number retired. Like, you have to do more than, I guess it's kind of unprecedented to be Big Sky or even All-American first team on multiple different positions, which is just crazy. But the team so far, like, this is the best year we had, and we made the biggest part of our run without Troy Anderson, which is kind of crazy to say. We beat the Grizz and made our playoff run with Troy on the sidelines. So I need to see one more big thing out of him, and then certainly it's in the discussion. But right now, I'd have to say I just don't see it.
Thorny, I thought the Bobcats played better without Troy, which is weird to say.
It is, but is that because so many guys got reps all season that we just got stronger all year and that we would have played better regardless? That's the question I wrestle with too. It's like Troy out there. Yeah, we played really good without him, but maybe we would have played even better with him. It's hard to say. Like, we were just getting better and better as the year went on.
Yeah. Hey, quick, is Lulay's number retired?
No.
Jeez. Okay. So, yeah, I was wrestling with that in my mind. I didn't know. Man, if we're not retiring Travis Lulay's number, then, Troy Anderson. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. When you think about it like that, it's kind of like, how can you retire if there's already greats that we consider Bobcat legends like Kane Ione, and none of these guys have their numbers retired. So it's hard to say, but he is a legend of himself.
No doubt. So the next question, the sub question to that is, who's going to be the next number 41? Now, if you don't know what about the 41, I did a little bit of rereading today. Jeff Choate, prior to his third year of coaching in the Cat Grizz, he loves football traditions, and he's like, there's significance in the number of 41 in the state of Montana. I think Montana is the 41st state, and all this stuff that Jeff Choate just likes to wax on about. So if you don't know, number 41 is now reserved for a Montanan that is not necessarily a team captain, but just embodies the culture that Jeff Choate wants for the Bobcats. Braden Conkle was most notably number 41 last year. Right before
the
him,
first, right?
Well, yeah,
the first of the tradition.
The first of the tradition, but before him was Grant Collins and then Bobby Daly, and then a list of just awesome players for the Bobcats. And so the question is, who is the next number 41? And it has to go to a Montanan via this following the tradition that Jeff Choate is now setting, I have to think it's got to be Troy Anderson, no doubt. And then when Troy Anderson is not a senior, it's going to be Callahan O'Reilly. And so I'm just calling it the next couple of years. That's going to be the order right there.
It has to be Troy Anderson next year. Question though is Chase Benson's will be a senior, so my other option was Chase Benson, but he's a senior, so unless it goes to Chase this year, and if Troy redshirts, then maybe Chase Benson will get it this year. But yeah, it can't be anyone else but Troy, unless for whatever reason he doesn't want to be anything but number 15. But it's got to be Troy.
Yeah, that's a foregone conclusion right there. All right.
I like your pick of Callahan O'Reilly though, and next year he seems to be the guy who could carry the banner for sure. That's a good pick.
All right, man. So let's move on into the Bobcat Nation questions. All right, let's pick one right here.
All right, you pick first.
Okay, I'm going to look at our boy Cletus, who's been a big fan of us, and he's a longtime listener. Cletus says, if the 2020 season takes place, he's already prefacing it. I like that, Cletus. What probability chance do you give MSU to win the league?
I'm going to defer to you on that real quick while I pull up the schedule.
This is a hard one to do, Cletus, because what you probably have thought about, and I was thinking about this afternoon when I looked at this, is I haven't looked at all the other schedules of every other team. And so what happens is in this time in the summer, we're going to go to the Spokane Big Sky Conference kickoff, and then we're going to get all the teams' media guides, and we're going to be able to look through all the schedules for every team. And when you look at the Montana State schedule, we can really only, take a look at Montana State's challenges, but we don't get to look at every other team's challenges. And sometimes, and as you know this, there's one team that has like this golden path. It seems like in July, they're like, whoa, they dodge every other big time team. And if they can only just get through that, they have like some sweet path to the Big Sky title. And it's kind of like this thing that has been eluding Montana State. I think this is like next steps for Jeff Choate. It's not only like, going deeper into playoffs, but if Jeff Choate wants to be remembered as like, an all-time great on Montana State, at Montana State, he needs to win a Big Sky title or multiple Big Sky titles. And so this has been eluding us for a long time. So do I think Montana State can win the league? I definitely do. Like, I think we're risen to the level of like, we're got to be one of the 1 to 2 top picks in the preseason polls. We have the culture of just being freaking tough. We don't start out great under Jeff Choate, but we finish awesome. That's just kind of a coin flip from where Rob Ash was, where we start out amazing with Ash and then just kind of piss down our legs in the second half of the season. We do play Weber at Weber. We do play Eastern at Eastern, and we do play the Grizz at U of M. And those are our 3 toughest games right there. I think we can beat Weber because I think we have a better offense than Weber, and I think we have an on-par defense with Weber. I think we can beat the Grizz just because, of our track record in the last 4 years. Our kryptonite, for some reason, is Eastern Washington. It's their kryptonite in football and in basketball. Can't stand the Eagles. We play here in Cheney. It's a weird stadium. It's a windy stadium. It's red. Eastern's just weird, man. Like, I don't know. They just get us every single time. In the last like decade, it feels like, and I don't know, but like, that would be one loss that I could see. I don't know if Eastern's going to be good. A lot of Eastern fans don't think Aaron Best is as good as projected. And so I'm being a little long-winded on this. Do I think MSU can win the league? Absolutely. But I'm not certain without looking at everybody else's schedule yet.
You got a percentage on it. Probability.
Oh, no, I can't. I mean, nobody... that's a weird thing. I mean, the whole Jeff Choate argument, like, of like the Big Sky, right? Like, nobody plays everybody. And so just kind of like the luck of the draw. And all of a sudden we have Weber, Eastern, and U of M on the road. Like that's kind of a kick in the balls right there, man.
It is, but the bright spot, and you alluded to it, we play better the second half, second, 2/3 of the season, third of the season, I guess you want to say, than we do in the beginning. So we have Eastern and the Grizz. Those are two of our last 3 games on the road. It's going to be a tough finish to the season, but if there's anything Jeff Choate has taught us, it will be playing our best football by then. I'm more concerned about, I actually have to agree with you. I think Eastern is going to be the biggest challenge. Weber, it's going to be hard, right? But we're not going to do the thing that the Grizz did in the playoffs where we throw like 5-6 interceptions because we don't throw the ball that much. So we're more built to kind of go toe to toe with the Weber team than the Grizz were. And the Grizz, I'm not convinced will be as good because they lose some major key players. But Eastern, I just can't see Eastern being down again with Eric Berrier at the helm again. He's going to present huge problems for our defense. But to answer the question, I guess I'd have to agree with you. Like, I don't know the rest of the schedules. Like that's how it works. Like one team avoids all the top big 3, as we call them, Eastern, the Grizz, MSU. They avoid them all, and they can cruise all on their way. Like I don't see UC Davis on our schedule, so maybe Davis is them again. But I say I just pretty good chance we can win the league. At least we can take care of our own business. But I see probably a league loss in there, and that might not be good enough to do it.
Another team we play that kind of has me concerned is Cal Poly, and it's simply from the fact that Bo Baldwin is the coach again. And so, we play some big teams. So, yeah, we play Weber October 17th, Eastern November 7th, and the Grizz on November 21st. And I don't know why you said the big 3, Eastern, the Grizz, and Montana State, and didn't even put Weber in there because Weber clearly is one of the teams that has been, why are you avoiding them in that little conversation right there that you just had? So they're a handful.
You're right. I'm just talking like the traditional, but you're right. Like Weber right now has to be in that conversation for top 4. There's like the 4 powers right now.
I know. So, Cletus, to kind of like wrap up your question, and I just kind of want to put a cherry on top on this, is like what I saw in the last like couple weeks, because here's the deal, Thorny. Like you said, go back to the very beginning of our conversation tonight. During this quarantine, I've had the opportunity to go back and look at some of our games, and we were playing hands down our best football at the end of the season. Montana State right now is a tough freaking team. We are physically dominating. We love to run it down your throat. We just have this identity of just being tough. And when that identity of being tough is built into your culture, it travels well, no matter where you go. And all of a sudden, our offense is going to match the toughness of our defense, is where I'm thinking. That's kind of my projection. And so it's been like, okay, what has Jeff Choate done? We've been the tougher team, and our defense has kind of been, the face of that. Well, all of a sudden last year, we were being able to run the ball at will and all this stuff. Our offense is making strides. Tucker Rovig looked pretty stinking good at the end of the season. We're making strides. And so you're looking at a balanced team that has, just kind of a culture of winning, a kind of culture of toughness. Man, we're in a good spot. Can MSU win the league? Yes. And if, to go back to your question, I'm going to put it at like, better than 3/4 chance for us to do that. So 75% and above, I'm thinking we're probably there, but man, we've missed it. We need to get it.
Well, I think that's kind of a good segue into our next question. You talked a little bit about Tucker Rovig playing well at the end of the season. Pete Burfening, our buddy on Twitter, asked us, how does the cancellation of spring ball affect the QB battle going into the fall? Similarity of drop down FCS quarterbacks, or FBS quarterbacks, Like Johnson comes in, breaks his foot right off the bat. McKay comes in. Now he can't even participate in spring ball, but no one can. So what are your thoughts? How does the cancellation of spring ball affect the quarterback battle, which is crucial to the Bobcats moving forward?
I don't think spring ball is going to have much to do with it. I think summer ball is going to tell the tale of the tape right there. Who can make the connections with the players, who has that leadership. My gut says early nod goes to Rovig, and I don't. What is McKay? Is he like? Does he have 1 year? Does he have 2 years? What's his story? Do you know?
I want to say he's a junior.
Okay.
You put me on the spot, but yeah, I think he's a junior.
So one of the things that really stood out to me in the last couple of times I've been watching these games is how good Rovig's been playing, and then just how some of the easy mistakes that he was just showing on film were being corrected. And so Rovig's been there, man. He's as much flack as he endured last season. He produced, and he was steady, and he just got better. I have a lot of confidence in Tucker Rovig. I don't know Matt McKay. I don't know Casey Bauman other than what we've seen from him. And my hopes for Bauman is I just hope he continues to stay around. He could be that guy that, like, at the end of this, he might start for a year, might start for 2 years, but he put in all that time. He's only a sophomore. If you look at the page right now, he could earn his starting position. Gosh, maybe, that year Tucker leaves or graduates and then just he's ready, at that time, and just has the lights out year. So I don't know, but I think summer ball is going to tell the tale of the tape right there. And then I totally expect you and I to be talking on this in late August, like with Jeff Choate making some stupid decision where we're like, oh, here we go again. But
yeah, pretty much something that we disagree with, something that we talked about in the pod all year. Do we trust Jeff Choate when it comes to matters of the quarterback? I don't know yet, but in terms of spring ball determining things, like, I know the last year it was Tucker's job to lose, and he pretty much, or was it 2 years ago? Maybe it was the last 2 years, but It's been Rovig's job to lose, and he just hasn't stepped up. And I know that certainly played into the quarterback battle heading into the fall. So in terms of how cancellation of spring ball affects things, I think it just delays that question until maybe like you said, summer, but I'm guessing well into fall. I'm guessing we're not going to know our starting quarterback up until possibly the very first game of the season. And then it may not even be the permanent, like the final destination for the quarterback. Like, it might not be the final answer. It could be, all right, I'm going to go with you because our first game is what, like Long Island University, something or other, some brand new program from way back east who is going to get crushed no matter who's playing quarterback. So it's just going to be delayed. And I think it may cause some problems with decision making from Jeff Choate, who seems to maybe have a little bit of trouble deciding on who he wants to man the helm there. But overall, I think it's not going to really affect the trajectory of the season for the Bobcats.
No. I guarantee we're going to talk about this at length throughout the season. Although, if Jeff Choate just decides right away, and here's what he needs to do, like, let's be straight up honest, he just needs to pick a dude and stick with him, and not play this carousel. And I think, like, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to just say it once. If he starts playing games with Tucker Rovig, with this Matt McKay guy in the back end, and going, if you're not performing, we're going to put this guy in, Tucker Rovig's going to just, that hasn't worked for him, earlier on. Just make the freaking choice, stick with the dude, let him ride, and just go with it. So,
agreed.
I'm looking forward to hearing what's coming out of the summer ball, because that is important. Who takes ownership? Who is the leader? I think there's a lot of things solidified in summer that we aren't privy to just because of their player run practices, but that's going to be big. Thanks, Pete, for getting, hold on, Thorny. Pete just came through with, he just gets us fired up. Nice job, Pete.
he listens to us, so he knows this will definitely light a fire in their butts. So
All right, Pete, thanks for the question, man. Next question comes from Blue and Gold Blitz. He says, who's the starting QB, left tackle, and safeties for next year? Kind of talked about the QB. Thorny, what's your thoughts?
well, the way it's written, I'm looking at it right now. It's //. So it's Trey Anderson because he's going to be quarterback, left tackle, and safety probably next year. Like / Cordell Stewart. Yes, / But we already talked about quarterback. I know you want to talk a little bit about safeties. You actually did some research. Left tackle will be harder. Offensive line is one of the hardest spots for me to know who's starting where because guys move around. I have a hard time keeping track of necessarily who's the backup right tackle because a lot of times that person will be listed as backup right tackle, backup center, and backup left guard. Like it's just it's such versatility. I would almost guess, if I had to guess, the starting left tackle will be someone who is already a starting offensive lineman, and then the person like maybe Connor Wood, will move into that person's vacated spot. So if I had to bet, I would say the starting left tackle was a starting lineman already last year between maybe, I don't know, Lewis Kidd or any other guys in the line, but that'd be my guess.
Okay. Let's talk about the safeties then. So safety is now vacated by Jacque Allen and JoJo Henderson. I went and perused the roster today. We have Jeffrey Manning, the new Oregon State transfer, coming in.
It's hard not to see him starting.
Right? I mean, so just listen to the list thereafter. So I put Luke May. Do you remember Luke May? He's going to be a senior this year. Hasn't seen much.
I feel like I've asked about him on the board, and no one ever seems to have a good update on him. Like, it's okay. Is he playing? Like, I don't know.
Wasn't Luke May like a former Minnesota Gopher?
Javelin.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Javelin, yeah.
He like javelin for the Gophers.
And then he was going to come over as a quarterback. I mean, just crazy. Okay. One of our freshman QBs, John Knight, is now listed as a safety. And then I just a little projections via a la Ryan Foley. Nolan Askelson. He's listed as a linebacker. I'm thinking, okay, he has his speed. He's got the body type. Why not? We can move him back there. He could be maybe like that big safety that we saw from Conkle. I'm not sure. He's a sophomore. And then and this is one just a shot in the dark. I was going through the wide receivers. Peyton Hanser. He's big tall guy out of, I can't even remember. I think he's a Montana boy, but
he is.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. Yeah, that's all I have as far as safeties, man. So, what's your thoughts?
Well, I didn't really prepare for this, but I seriously doubt Nolan Askelson ends up being a safety. I'd put more money on Troy Anderson being a safety than Nolan Askelson. What about Keaton Anderson? Is he not on the roster anymore?
Probably is. I didn't see him. I mean, you got to have the Jeffrey Manning kid out of Oregon being just like the sure lock-in. I mean, right?
Well, he has to be based on the returning experience. Like, he's all of a sudden like the most experienced guy in the room, even if he hasn't played very much at Oregon State. No one on our roster has played very much at all, unless like maybe like Ty Okada moves to safety or something like that. But like it's definitely an area of concern for me.
I thought about Ty, but I didn't think he was tall enough to do the safety bit.
I really wouldn't say he's not a real big body, but not necessarily a deal breaker at the FCS level, but certainly something you look for. Maybe Eric Zambrano. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about safety, right, you think about a kind of a guy who can like bring the wood, who's kind of a tough-nosed guy. Somebody has maybe a little bit bigger body type than your traditional corner. Somebody has some speed. Just, someone who's kind of nasty, and you want that as a safety.
Well, it kind of depends. There's kind of two safeties, right? There's the free roaming, the ball hawking safety, and then there's the sure tackler, run support type safety and the rare combination of both. But you got like Bryson McCabe, who we've talked about, the run stuffing machine, and then there's like the Jockway Allen, who's more of the ball hawk, but who could also lay the wood too. So he's definitely a hitter. But it's hard to find the combination of both. But I don't know who we have on the roster who's going to fill either one of those spots, except for, like you said, maybe manning the transfer.
That's a good point.
But again, I have not done a ton of research on this. Like I said, busy during this quarantine.
So a little thought on Troy Anderson. If Troy Anderson does bump back to becoming a safety, I'd be all right with that. Just because Daniel Hardy, man, that guy flashed towards the end of the season.
He finally showed what we've heard about for a couple years now. All the athleticism, the raw talent, finally starting to harness it.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people listening to us right now nodding their heads. Yep. All right, man. Blue and Gold Blitz, thanks for the question. Let's move on to Bleeding Blue. We got 2 questions left, and they're pretty easy right here. It says, Bleeding Blue says, after weeks of quarantine, will you still like your wives? Thorny, I'm going to let you answer that one first.
Well, that's an easy one. Number one, I could say whatever I want to hear because my wife doesn't listen to this podcast. But yes, I will still like/love my wife. Now, my children is a whole different question. A whole different question. My wife, yeah, that's going fine so far. How about you?
My wife is doing so awesome in this. It's so cool. She's so good. I could not do this without her. She is, man, she's making this way easier on me than it has to be. So, but we have kind of a pretty good working thing. She's like sequesters herself up in our room, and she does her little computer meetings that she has with her work, and I'm downstairs. But without her help, man, no, it would be just a crap show around here. So yes, my wife, we will still be just great. More like you, yes, the kids. That's the most challenging part.
Yeah. When's it too late to drop them off at like the fire department?
The funny part is I see like posts all the time, or like my friends will be like, when's it too early to have a glass of wine? Or when's it too early to have a beer? Kind of.
Quarantine is the exact same time as airport time. All right. You can drink at 7:30 in the morning. No one cares. It's the airport. It's quarantine. Do what you want.
Corn. Hadn't heard that one. That might be all we have, Thorny. Did you have any other questions? I'm not seeing any more.
You're missing 2 questions, man.
Oh, man. Okay, where are they?
You're missing Colorado Cat, who's asking us, how should we measure whether Choate's tenure as a head coach was successful once he leaves someday? For example, this is him. For example, the Big Human. Was the Big Human successful? Was Rob Ash successful? What is the current measuring stick, and why has it changed from coach to coach? It's a loaded question. How did you just gloss over that bad boy?
Ooh, I had thought at length about that one too. Man, I totally forgot about that one. Sheesh.
All right. Well, then it's all yours.
Okay, so how should we measure Choate's tenure as head coach? How would he, if he's successful or not? I thought about that today. If Choate ended his career today, I would deem him as a successful coach. Certainly. One, he's never lost to the Grizzlies. So there's that. But 2, I think he's just changed the culture at Montana State. I think him and our president, Waded Cruzado, kind of have some parallels in them. They're just, kind of fiery people, the go-getters and, action makers. But there's an asterisk if he would leave today. I think for Choate to be ultimately successful, 2 things in my mind have to happen. He needs to win a Big Sky title. No, if he doesn't stay around long, he needs to at least win 1. But at the same time, I'm going to put this out there. Jeff Choate has the ability to win a national championship. So for him to be a truly successful coach in the eyes of Ryan Foley, he needs to do both of those.
I don't think he needs to win a conference championship. The way the conference is set up, is stupid and the championships are meaningless. Like, what are we, 4th this year? 3rd or 4th? Like, we weren't even in the top 2.
But
And
Thorny,
yet here we are and
no,
the
no.
semifinalist.
No, just okay. I get that point, but like at least a share of the Big Sky title. I mean, it's rare these days.
Meaningless.
No. Just listen to me. There's just a share of the Big Sky title has to happen. I mean, if Choate is going to be this predictable, okay, we're going to suck at the beginning of the year, and then we're going to have a coming to Jesus meeting at like halfway, and then like go on this tear. Like, I don't get that. Like, do well at the beginning of the season, and then do better at the end of the season. At least get a share, because I mean, if 3 teams conceivably can share the Big Sky title, Montana State should be one of those, no doubt.
But there's always the possibility of the championship winning team. We didn't even play them.
It's true. And you do
it's
have
a stupid
a good point.
conference. There's too many teams in this friggin' conference.
All right. So what do you think is going to be for Jeff Choate to be successful?
I've thought about this too, and I was thinking about it. Each coach has had different expectations. Kramer came in with pretty much no expectations, brought us to heights we hadn't seen in however many years. But then his departure, scandalous as it may have been, however you want to phrase it, but we got sanctioned by the NCAA, lost some scholarships, all that stuff. So when Rob Ashe comes in, what were the expectations for him? It's kind of hard to say. Like, he just had to kind of clean the program up and kind of bring us back. And yet he brought us to heights that we hadn't seen since the 80s or, whatever, like number 1 team in the country, all that stuff. So Rob Ashe, by his measure, took us from, we didn't know what expectations were to, okay, super successful. And then he kind of dropped down at the end. So then where did that leave Jeff Choate at the beginning, coming off the first losing season the Bobcats have had since 2002? Like, we had 2002 to 2016 were like winning seasons, or 2015, excuse me. But so Choate comes in and all of a sudden takes us from, he had kind of reset mode 2016, and now we're a semifinalist in our 4th year. It's impossible. Like, how do you possibly beat that? I think he's already been measured as successful as it is, just because he's taken us from the spot we were in to the spot we are now in such a short amount of time. The only downside to that would be, I guess, the potential for sliding is that, all right, we don't even make the playoffs next year. He can be successful if he somehow left right now, if he took a better job. But there's always the possibility that if he comes back, which he obviously most likely will at this point, if we don't have the same level of success we did last year, it's easier to go down from where we are now than it is to go up. So to how to measure success, I say right now, he's very successful. He's one of the most successful coaches in terms of reaching a national prominence in terms of the playoffs, but he's only done it once. Can he sustain it? I don't know. If he left right now, very successful.
He's not leaving right now, though. So
he is not.
I think yes, he's successful right now. You and I would both agree on that. But I think I think the thing that we're kind of skirting around is his ceiling is higher than the big humans So,
do you mean his ceiling in Bozeman?
Yeah, I think what he's built a culture right now. I think Montana State is in the prime of their existence right now. I was 2 in 1984, so I don't know how that felt, but I know what I feel right now. And Montana State my expectations for Montana State are at an all-time high, and that's largely because of what Jeff Choate has done.
It's hard to argue that he's already more successful than Ashe and Kramer in terms of playoff prominence, playoff wins, how far he got in the playoffs, and success against the Grizz, which is probably the number 2 measuring stick for a Bobcat coach. So it's hard to argue he's already the most successful coach of the millennium.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. So that was a good one. Nice job, Colorado Cat.
We're missing Helena Cat 95. The very first question in response to our call for questions: if you had to be quarantined with one current Bobcat player and one current Bobcat coach, who would they be? It's a good question.
I totally wrote this down. Let me see what I got. I thought deeply about this question. Thank you, Helena Cat. And I'm gonna kind of go back to a little bit about like some feelings about my checkbook right here. So, and here's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go with Jimmy Beal. Jimmy Beal is a teacher at heart, and so he's gonna help me coverage both of my kids. So, I'm a teacher, so I'm gonna take on Miles, and we're gonna do his stuff. And Jimmy's gonna, I'm gonna stick Jimmy on Macklin, and they're gonna do their deal. He's gonna be that guy. But another thing about Jimmy Beal, he's not a big guy. So if you had to stay in my house, if he was quarantined with me, I'm assuming. Now, this is just an assumption that he's not going to eat as much as the bigger coaches. And so it's not going to hurt my budget as much when I'm buying groceries. So Jimmy Beal, two things on there. The player I'm going with is Coy Steele. Here's why. Coy Steele, again, is one of the smaller players on the Bobcats. He's 177 pounds. Again, his diet, I'm thinking of money right here. I'm just being a pragmatist right here. I'm buying less groceries in order to fill his caloric intake every day. So not only that, but Coy Steele is an exercise science major. He's going to make sure that we are all feeling good, exercising every day, doing our due diligence to help ourselves. So Coy Steele, Jimmy Beal, you're welcome in my house.
I like your approach to it. Who's going to cost me the least amount of money to feed? I didn't even think about that aspect. I was going all entertainment value and utility over here, and you're thinking like, all right, who's going to take the least impact on my bank account? I like it. That's good. That's good. These are trying times for everybody. All right. All right. I did not put any thought into this until right now, until you were talking. So I was going to say Bobby Daly for my coach, because it would just be fun to chat with him about all the playing days. Because while I was there in Bozeman watching him playing, and it'd be fun to just talk about all the stuff that happened on the field. How can you possibly ever be bored with Jeff Choate in your house, though? I'm going to have to go with Jeff Choate. He would entertain everybody. He's a great orator. He'd just sit there and talk. My kids would just be like, wow, that guy's cool. It would just be lots of talking, and I love it. It would just entertain everyone all day long. I could totally use that right now for some relief. So Jeff Choate's my coach. An obvious choice, maybe an easy choice, but man, how could you not entertain the idea of having Jeff Choate be at like a dinner party every single night at your house?
I did think about Choate. Choate was my second choice.
As for a player, the complete opposite in terms of talking, I'm going to go with another easy choice, an obvious choice, Troy Anderson, because I feel like by the time I woke up in the morning, he would have already like mowed the lawn and like cooked breakfast. I just feel like he's that like just get stuff done kind of guy. He's going to help out whether I ask him to or not. Just going to take charge around the house. Like, oh, this needs to be fixed. I'm going to fix it for you. I'm like, all right, Troy, good job. So Troy Anderson's my guy to help me around the utility side of Troy Anderson. I think he would just be the, shucks, I'll help you out with that kind of guy. So there's my choice for player.
Jeff Choate and Troy Anderson. You probably didn't think twice about that, did you?
No. The talker, entertainer, the worker, not so much the talker. Boom.
Gotcha. All right. Nice job, Helena Cat. That was a good one. Thanks for the question. All right, Thorny man. We've been talking long enough. So a couple things. One thing I thought about is if you're listening to this and you've made it to this point, thanks for listening. I personally wanted to give a call out to any former player that's listening. If you're listening and you want to talk to us, if you want to come on the R&R Catcast, Thorny and I have been thinking about this time during our quarantine and just, providing a little levity for our Bobcat fans. If you want to come and do an interview with us, if you want to spend some time talking with us and talk about your time, we'd love to have you on. Please get at us at via our Twitter account or our Gmail account. We'd love to have you on.
On the flip side of that, if you're just a fan listening, get to us and tell us who you would like us to have on. We can certainly reach out, like just to kind of give us like an idea who you want us to have on here to interview, and we will find them and see if they're available.
Right on.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much does it for this episode. I do want to say that the R&R Catcast is a part of the Big Sky Podcast Network. I just want to throw that out there because it's a fun network. Like, it's a good group of guys doing all the Big Sky podcasts for the various schools. We got an Idaho one, we got an Eastern Washington one, obviously got a Grizz one, and that might be about it. I'm missing somebody, but
NAU.
It's a fun group. NAU, yeah, I'm sorry, NAU, and it's a fun group. It's just a cool thing that we're just putting together just to try and bring more attention to the Big Sky Conference. So, as always, you can find us on Twitter, our Catcast, on the Bobcat Nation under our recurring thread, R&R Catcast. And you can email us at rrcatcast@gmail.com. Do you have anything else? Parting thoughts here, Foley?
Nope. Thanks for listening. Go Cats.
Go Cats.